Hello everybody, and welcome to a quick look at Minecraft Snapshot 15W31. This is specifically Snapshot 15W31C, but they only did bug fixes in the B and C releases, so it's not particularly relevant. So first off, since it's been a while, I'll just review what this series is. This is basically me going through the changelogs of each snapshot and detailing all of the important, major, and most of the minor things as well. Just showing off a little bit about them. I'm not going to go into every single detail about every single thing because that would take too long, and I would almost definitely miss something every time. But it's just a quick overview for people who like a bit more of a visual changelog than just reading a list of things off of the Minecraft wiki, for example. So yeah, it's going to be a weekly series as long as they keep doing weekly snapshots. And I'll only skip snapshots if there's really nothing for me to show, like less than a minute worth of content, then I probably will skip it or save it for the next week. And in the future, these videos will hopefully come out on either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on whether or not I think that there is enough detail in the changelog, because they don't actually give us a changelog, all the players have to find the features themselves, so it can take days sometimes for us to find things. So it's the advantage of doing it later, but I'm going to try to balance that so that we can get things out early in combination with actually having a decent amount of the content. But don't be surprised if I miss stuff. It's either because I forgot it, or it wasn't found yet, or I just didn't decide it was worth mentioning, so don't be surprised. But anyway, on to the actual changelog. So the very first thing, the dominant hand. You can now pop into skin customization, change your main hand, and voila! You now have items in your other hand, and I don't know about you, but this feels really weird to me. But maybe it's because I'm not left-handed. If anything, I'd be almost ambidextrous, but right-handed for the most part. So yeah, it works completely like normal. Buttons are still the same, and yeah, it's pretty neat for people who are left-handed. But let's go ahead and switch our options back real quickly, just because it feels really weird to me and I don't want to do the whole video like that. So next up, dual wielding. The default button for dual wielding is F, and all you do is you highlight the item you want to put in your other hand. For example, we have this map here. Wouldn't it be useful if we could use other items while we have this map? Well, just stick it in your other hand, and you'll hold it up like that. And then you can have your sword out, and you can use a block, you can attack, you can do whatever you want, and it will just always be in your left hand. It also gives you an extra inventory space as well, because you're holding it in your hand and not in your inventory. So that's pretty useful, isn't it? But you can also stick something else in your hand like that. And so, if you have an item that has, you know, a side attack, then like that, you can do that, because the shovel doesn't have a right-click function, so right-click will do that. But if you have something that does have a right-click function, for example, the Ender Pearl, then you can throw it still. You won't be able to block with your sword, because the main hand overrides the offhand unless it has nothing to override with, basically. So that's good, but let's go ahead and you just choose an empty one and hit F to toss the item back in and get rid of it. It's a very useful feature, and its main purpose, I'm guessing, will probably be for the shield slot, which will have items in the future. I guess something else I should mention is that there's been a lot of features they've talked about for 1.9, and not all of them are in this very first snapshot. They didn't include every single thing they've worked on, because some things are still way too in beta, basically, for them to include, and they're constantly changing their mind about how things work. They've changed their ideas on arrows, they were going to add a quiver, and then they didn't. And it's just a lot of things that they're not sure about yet and haven't been included. But anyway, moving on, so arrows. They've added the ability to give potion effects to arrows. Right now, these are just generic arrows of potion effect, basically. If you hit something with this arrow, then it applies that potion effect to it. So that means that a skeleton with arrows of poison or arrows of harming would be pretty dangerous. So you don't want to run into those. It'd be a bit silly, though, to run into something like a skeleton with an arrow of regeneration, though. That'd be pretty entertaining. But the main thing to talk about is the spectral arrow, which is a new arrow. So as you can see, let's get over here, hit the skeleton. Oh, but see how he highlighted? That's because whenever you hit something or someone with this, it will highlight them. And it looks like I don't have any squids around right now, so I will just have to spawn something in real quick using one of my handy spawn eggs that I kept lying around for just this purpose. Probably kill the chicken, right? Yep, but see, you can see it through blocks as well. If I can let this pig survive, I can show that off. I'll try to not shoot hard. So yeah, see, you can see through there, so it's really useful if you're fighting and someone hides, you can see where they are. And it also uses team colors, so you can identify who's on what team by the highlights. So yeah, that's pretty nice, isn't it? And that is a generic potion effect too, so I'm theoretically guessing that you could probably mod in a potion that applies that, and you can spawn mobs with that effect. You could probably make the time it lasts so long that it just lasts forever. That is the spectral arrow. Hopefully they'll add special names to more of the arrows, but no guarantees there. So moving on, we have the chorus plant. I've planted one here. They can be planted on the end stone right here. The generic end stone that you find in the end, and they'll grow over time. You plant the fruit, which is this bit here. Well, the flower, I mean, not fruit. And it will grow upwards like this. As long as they're white, they can keep growing, but eventually they will turn this color and stop growing. But until then, they can branch out, go upwards. Theoretically, they could keep going on forever if you got really lucky with the random generation, as well as outwards. And there's quite a few uses for them. Let's look in here. So, first of all, whenever you break one, if you break the flower, you'll get the flower. If you break the underneath, it'll fall kind of like a tree does, or reeds or anything. You won't get the flowers then, so you want to grab the flowers if you want to plant it. But otherwise, each section of the actual plant itself has a chance of dropping one of these chorus fruits. And you can cook these chorus fruits in a furnace to create popped chorus fruits, which you can then craft 4 of those into a purpur block, but we'll get to those later. There is no actual way to obtain the chorus plant block outside of creative mode, though, so don't look for that. Now, there is a special effect to this fruit. It is not a normal fruit, so let's hop on over to survival mode. Hope there's no skeleton around anymore. Okay, good. Now, when you eat it, it teleports you randomly. It's kind of like being an Enderman for a second. So, it even makes the noise. So it's pretty interesting, and I actually see this as kind of a security issue. You know, if you wanted to make, like, a bank vault or something, somebody could theoretically teleport in there without having to break the blocks. So it's possible that bedrock walls might not be secure. It depends on how they programmed it. If it checks for open air, then it might be safe. But I'm not sure quite how they programmed that. It could be an issue if they don't change that. But anyway, so next up we have the dragon head. Now this is a block that whenever you apply power, it will move its mouth like that. And if you stop the power, the mouth will stay at whatever position it was in whenever you stopped it. You can also, of course, like any other one, put it on your head, and it looks pretty crazy. Let's swap out camera views. Oh gosh. So yeah, and when you walk, it also moves the mouth. So that's a bit silly, and it's comically big. I like it. I'm glad they added another head. I think they should add more of those. Anyway, let's get back to our camera mode, hop on over here, and see what else we got. So the end rod, we'll be seeing these in the end fairly often. You find them in the end cities. They're basically just a light source. They give off the bright light like a torch does. They can also be placed on angles like that. So it's pretty neat. You can walk on them too. They're solid. So they have potential. And yeah, you can also craft in stone brick. It's like the other bricks in the game. You do 4. And it's just a decorative block. It looks pretty nice. I'm always happy to to see new decorative blocks added to the game, especially logical ones like that. Now, the grass path, we're going to have to go on a little field trip for that, but this is a block I've wanted for a very long time. It's something I kind of modded in myself once or twice just because it's so useful, but you just right-click with a shovel, and it makes a path. Grass won't grow, it's a little lower down looking, and it's just a great way, much better than using gravel or sand to make a path. It's much cheaper than using cobblestone or anything, so it's going to be so much easier to make actual paths just decorative. I love that feature, and it'd be cool if they added the ability to make paths in sand and stuff as well, but that's just hypothetical. Now the purpur block, we mentioned that earlier with this thing, but basically you can make a purpur block from 4 popped chorus fruits, which you of course make from cooking the normal chorus fruits. Now, you can make those using the standard recipe into stairs and slabs. No surprises there. You can also put 2 slabs on top of each other like this and craft a purpur pillar. These are all decorative blocks, of course. The name's kind of silly, but hey, I'm always up for new decorative blocks. And definitely when they're a new shade or purple, we obviously don't have much you can build out of purple right now, so it's very nice. And you will be seeing them in the end if you explore after defeating the end dragon. I'll show you that in a bit. Now the structure block, this is just a technical block. You'll never run into it in the game itself. In fact, it's a bit of a pain to even obtain it for placement. You have to use the set block command. So there's not much to say about it. It's a technical thing, but I just thought I'd show what it looks like because it is kind of neat. Now beetroot, this is pretty exciting. It's been on the list for a while. It's something they, I believe, have in the Pocket Edition, but now they are going to have it in the main one. It's a new thing. It's like carrots and potatoes. You can find it in villages. You plant seeds, it grows. You can make soup out of 6 of them in a bowl. And it's just another nice thing to have. There's variety. I like having variety. It doesn't need to do things. It just existing is nice. Now the shulker, I will show those later, but they're a new mob. And they're found in the end and in cities and so on, and they're pretty interesting. We'll check them out, though. But trapdoor changes. Now, trapdoors used to require being up against a block. That is no longer the case, so now they can just float like most other blocks in the game, which is pretty nice. I kind of wish they'd do this with doors, but they haven't. Now, this could be a glitch. I don't know. These changes, you never know. It could be they just did this for some technical reason and will fix it back. But I believe it also allows it to be pushed with a piston. I guess it couldn't before. So that's pretty nice. I mean, anytime they remove a limitation, it gives you a lot more building opportunities. And now here's a big one. It's logical. With the glass panes and iron bars, they now look like this whenever they're not connected, instead of being a weird plus shape thing. So they just look like a nice pillar. I think it's pretty good for decoration. The only thing that sucks is if you liked how the other ones looked for decoration purposes. So that's just a change to be aware of. And the collision box, of course, is updated as well, so they're now, you know, smaller. Now, boss bars, I'm not going to show this because it's pretty self-explanatory, but basically, whenever you have more than one boss in an area, there will be multiple boss health bars, so you'll know that there's more than one and be able to see what's going on. It's the kind of thing that's useful if someone decides to spawn a wither next to the end dragon, I guess, ender dragon. Or if someone spawns multiple withers, for that matter. Now, death messages. If you die, it will now say your death right here. So if you die and it falls off the chat list and you're on a server and a billion people are talking, you'll still be able to see how you died, even if you were AFK or something, which, you know, it's a minor thing, but I think it's nice. Why not? Probably pretty easy to program. Let's go grab my items back real quick. Flung them all over the place, didn't I? Okay, so next up on the list, we have status effects. We will also see this later, so I'll just pause on that. Now, dead bushes, we have a bunch around here, but you can just take my word for it because we're in creative mode. But they have a chance now of dropping up to 2 sticks when you break them, which I think is also good. That way, if you spawn in a desert or something, you're not completely without the ability to get wood. I mean, especially for things such as ultra hardcore, that could be a game changer if you spawn in a desert. It'll let you at least do something while you look for trees. Okay, so bows and fishing rods. You might have noticed this earlier, but now whenever you hold an arrow, it actually changes the graphic down in the hotbar to show that you're shooting an arrow. That's pretty neat. It doesn't really do much of anything, but it's just a little thing. And same thing with fishing rods. You'll be able to see that you're using a fishing rod. Now, potion colors. I'm not actually a big fan of this, but if you look, the potions are all now kind of this generic-y blue. They call it mixed potion or something in the changelog I saw, but really it looks like they just made everything blue to me. There's not much to distinguish anything anymore, so hopefully that's going to change somehow, or maybe they'll keep it like this forever. I don't know, but it's definitely a lot harder to identify what's what right now. And mob animations, we already showed that, so I don't need to pull out the egg. But Enderman drops and aggro. So, it used to be, until now, that when an Enderman was holding a block in his hands and he died, that he would not drop the block. And I believe I actually reported this as a glitch a few times, but nobody really listened. They're like, no, that's an intended feature. They're meant to destroy the blocks if they die. But now they do destroy the blocks, so I've been vindicated, I guess. And also the aggro, or aggressiveness. Now, if they get hurt by water, they don't stop attacking the player that they're attacking. So you can no longer, like, trick them to hit water for a second and then you're free. They're a bit scarier now. So pigs and chickens, I already pulled the eggs out. I'm not going to show this off, but now, instead of just having a carrot, you can also have pigs follow potatoes and beetroots. I don't believe there's potatoes or beetroots on a stick, though, so if you want to do that, you still need a carrot, as far as I know. And you might be able to guess, but chickens will now go after these 3 types of seeds in addition to the basic seeds they already went after. So the end stuff, there's been a lot of end stuff going on. We've covered a lot of it, and I've said I'll get to a lot of it. I hope I don't forget any. But this right here is a new block, the end gateway. And it doesn't actually work in this world. It's only for use in the end. So let's actually hop into the end. I'm done with the main world now. So here we are in the end. I almost fell to my death. So first off, if you're familiar with the console edition of Minecraft, then you will know that the fight is a little different. Now, I've already beaten the Ender Dragon here just to spawn a gateway, but there's cages around certain pillars, end crystals, and the dragon also has a few different attacks and a little bit of a different AI. Overall, it makes the fight a little tougher, which I think is important because those new arrows of harming, for example, make this fight a bit easier. You can do more damage per hit. So I think they definitely needed to do that. And they'll probably do more in the future, I imagine. Now, one thing is, you can actually respawn the Ender Dragon now by drawing... Right now, by drawing a creeper face in clay. But in the future, I think the current idea is that you'll be able to craft your own crystals. I don't know if you'd need to place them all on top of the pillars again or what, but I believe that's their current goal. And also, this portal will start spawned now just without the actual portal and egg here. But then when you kill the dragon, it appears. However, if you respawn the dragon, you don't get any more experience or another egg. And I just tossed my bow in there. So good job me. But the point is, every time you kill them, it will spawn a new gateway. And over here we have the gateways. We can see what it looks like. When it first spawns, it will have a big glowing bar above it to help you see where it is. But the only way you can get in there is the ideal way is to use the ender pearl. You just throw it in there, and depending which direction you throw it, you'll end up at a different point, a distance away from here where the islands actually start. You can also use a little bit more cheaty ways, like riding a pig or maybe a boat or something, to force your way in there if you can get your collision box to be a block tall. It only really matters, I believe, what direction you're facing, or perhaps what direction the ender pearl is traveling. I've never actually tried throwing an ender pearl through a normal portal, so I don't know if that works or not. That could be what it's based on. But anyway. Okay, so here we are. Sorry about that. I had placed a command block to teleport me here, but apparently it had vanished. I don't know, maybe going through the portal or something rewrites that area. I'll have to look into that. But yes, here we are. This is what the end is like beyond the Ender Dragon fight area. Now, I'm standing on a shulker, which is the new mob. It hides in there, and it can shoot projectiles at you. If you turn into survival mode, of course, then it will attack. And see, it does that. And then whenever you get hit, you get floating upwards. It's the new levitation effect, which is pretty neat. And also, status effects. I said I was going to show this later. So now, whenever you have a status effect, it shows this, and in order of how long they're going to last, and it flashes based on that as well. So that's pretty nice. It makes it a lot easier to tell when you're actually affected by something, instead of having to know the particles, because that's a bit unrealistic. So it's pretty neat. You can definitely die from the fall damage if you don't have some place to go. But other than that, whenever you attack them, they have a chance of teleporting, and I think they can teleport in a few other situations, like maybe if you break the block underneath them. Yeah, kind of like an Enderman, so now he's over here. And unlike most mobs, you saw I was standing on it, it actually has a solid hitbox, which is pretty neat. Now we are standing on an end ship. It is a thing that sometimes spawns, not always. And this beacon is a temporary thing just for testing. So it won't probably be here forever, but it's just to help the development team find them, because they're a bit rare, because they only spawn next to end cities. Now, I believe this is a fairly small end city, but it was the first one I ran into, which luckily had a ship. Now, these can be really tiny or really big, just random, and with a chance of an end ship, which is pretty nice, but this is where you find purple stuff naturally, and bricks, and I believe this might be the only way to obtain the end rods, is this place right here. So that's pretty interesting. Now, as you can see, all the area, once you get past the Ender Dragon area, it's basically just this. A whole bunch of these plants, the chorus plants, and a whole bunch of Endermen and Endstone. And that's it. So hopefully they add a bit more to this. You know, I'd love it if there was perhaps a resource that you could use to craft end rods that you could mine in this place. Just hopefully they add more variety than just wandering around this place until you can find one of these cities. And that's basically all there is to say about that. And I believe we have actually covered everything of importance. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. This was a really long video. There's so much to show, and I probably did forget something, honestly. But this was just a quick, well, not quick, this was a very long video just to make sure that everybody knew what was up, because I want to make sure when I do this current week's snapshot, which actually came out while I was recording this one, I want people to be able to go back and see the old one if they have not been paying attention to the change logs. So that is the status of this series. And this has been Kebab799. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to see more. Like this if you liked it. Comment if you have anything to say. And I will see you in the next episode.